Yes, ma'am, we can.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. It is my privilege to welcome you all at the FICCI Rajagiri Business School webinar on Shift to Hybrid Learning Model, the new normal for education. Thank you all for joining us for this webinar, which is extremely important and a pertinent subject. May I, on behalf of FICCI, that is Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, and Rajagiri Business School, welcome our chief guest, Dr. Anil Sahasrabuddhe, Chairman, All India Council for Technical Education. I also take this opportunity to welcome Mr. Ayush Gupta, Chief General Manager, HRD Gale Limited, Mr. Amit Goyal, Country Head India and Southeast Asia edX, Mr. Ajay Bohra, Co-founder HDFC Credila Financial Services, Dr. Sunil Puliakot, Director, Rajagiri Business School, Kochi, Dr. Binay Joseph, Principal, Rajagiri College of Social Sciences, Kochi, Father Francis Sebastian, CMI, Assistant Director, RCSS and RBS Kochi. And I am Shobha Mishra Ghosh, Assistant Secretary General FICCI. Friends, we know that the current global health crisis which is going on is obviously, focusing, making us focus at the present because, everything has come to a standstill. The economy, the life that we were used to, and more so the educational institutions were the first ones to be, kind of put on hold. So, but however, as we are, kind of dealing with the pandemic, it is also time to look at the future and to see how the education system is going to pan out. And I think the recent, release of the National Education Policy Guidelines is very, very timely. The current crisis is twinned with already the impact of Industry 4.0, which kind of has had disrupted or is disrupting our industry and the way we live. In such a scenario, preparing the workforce for the 21st century society will definitely require rethinking. We need to change the traditional education model that we have been following for centuries now and adopt cutting edge teaching practices, pedagogical practices to prepare our young, that I mean for them to be able to deal with this complex multidimensional and global society. COVID-19 has fundamentally redefined the new work order and also the way we live. From telehealth to robotic process automation and from online classes to virtual internship, technology transition is reshaping the consumer behavior patterns and business models. The crisis has forced organizations into perhaps the most significant social experiment of the future of work in action. With work from home and social distancing, policies radically changing the way we work and interact. SMS is the norm. It is the social distancing, mask, and sanitization that is going to be the way forward for us for some time at least until we know how to deal with the pandemic. But the impact on work is far more profound than just changing where people work. It is also fundamentally altering what work is performed and how we perform it. So therefore, the entire skill sets that we were, able to rely upon for being employable, for being able to be gainfully employed for livelihood, perhaps that entire dimension is now taking a, shaping up into a different dimension. The new normal of digital workplace has opened up new opportunities for industry, academia engagements. Apart from exposing students to industry environment through virtual internship and apprenticeship, academia, industry, and government can collaborate together to promote research and develop innovative solutions to solve new business challenges. And apart from that, there is commercialized research by industry. Such collaborations could also exploit synergies and complementarities of scientific and technological capabilities and help researchers uh, network with each other through virtual group and use data analytics uh, uh, to mine huge quantity of open source data for their research output. Universities and higher educational institutions are adopting hybrid model to combine quality campus experience and job relevant skills delivered to students through online learning platform. Life is not going to be usual, and we are talking about the new normal, and therefore uh, just physical delivery of education is definitely not going to be, and that is what has been emphasized in also in the national education policy. So the way forward, one sees there are going to be hybrid where you have face-to-face classrooms, you will have online, classrooms, you will have open learning, distance learning provisions, and also virtual learning. So what does the institutions need to do? They need to have advanced learning management systems with its right knowledge management tools, helping in improving the design and delivery of educational courses being offered by universities and colleges in India. I think, I would like to thank our partner Rajagiri Business School, Kochi, for actually coming forward to, have a deliberation on this very, very important subject. And I'm extremely grateful to our panel of speakers, as well as, Dr. Anil Sahasrabudhe, who is an extremely dynamic leader who has always shown and led the way for education institutions, while whether he was in the College of Pune, Engineering Pune, or the way he has transformed AICTE, into a absolutely vibrant, dynamic organization. I think it is extremely, we are in a very beneficial situation to have all these eminent panelists and speakers who will be, showing us the way forward during this 1 hour deliberation. I'm extremely also happy to inform you that we have almost about 1,200 plus registrations from vice chancellors, directors, administrators, faculty, and we are also live on YouTube. So with this, I will stop here, and I will ask our chief guest, Dr. Anil Sahasrabudhe, to give his keynote address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Shobha Ghosh Mishra, Dr. Sunil Pulikayat, Binoy Joseph, Ayush Gupta, Amit Goel, Ajay Bohra, and of course, Father Sebastian, and most importantly, Mrs. Priyanka Upreti, who was after me because I had some parallel session. So I'm in a way doing multitasking. There is another session on there, and I'm coming here, going there. So that is what most women do, who are very good at multitasking. So we are also used to that now. So with this, let me come to the topic, which is shift to hybrid learning model, normal for education, in particular higher education. Because I think for the primary school education, this may not fit so well, but certainly for higher education, this hybrid model, or what we call mixed model, or blended model, is going to be the order of the day in the years to come. But let me just go back to the history, and very interestingly, in India, our NPTEL, which started off way back in 1999, were all video-based courses which were recorded and were available free of cost for all students to learn from. So I think NPTEL history goes from 1999. So it is already 21 years old. When it comes to online and face-to-face mode of online education, my own experiments with College of Engineering Pune and IIT Bombay were very significant, because that was the time when still the technology called MOOCs had not arrived, Khan Academy had not arrived, but it was the vision of Dr. F.C. Kohli who was the chairman of the board of governors, and we all know that in the IT sector, he's called the Bhishma Pitamaha of Indian IT industry. FC Kohli was the chairman. He said, now, tomorrow, this is going to be the order of the day. You must buy 5 video conferencing equipment, put 3 of them in IIT Bombay, 2 of them in your institute, and depending on the class schedule of IIT Bombay, adjust your schedule and let your students get the IIT level education. I think it was such a great vision. We never realized at that time, can it be possible? Can we really hold classes like that? But we had some challenging times because internet bandwidth was a problem. Sometimes it is a problem even today. But imagine in the year 2006, it was very, very difficult. And despite that, we pushed the agenda and we continued. Then came the Khan Academy in 2008 as a small step by Salman Khan that he wanted to have some math tutorials to be given to his cousins. But the success of that, he increased to computers, physics, economics, chemistry, in all subjects, finance, history, almost all subjects he started covering and came into existence in 2008. But simultaneously, many were starting to open up what is known as MOOCs platform, whether it is Udacity in 2011 or MIT's edX platform. Amit is there on this particular panel, so he will also talk about that. edX of 2012, Coursera 2012. I think these all started happening, and India was not behind. And in the year 2015, we started some exercise. By 2017, we had indigenously developed a MOOCs platform called Swayam, which exists, and that has more than 2,500. We have 1.2 crore students who are using it. As many as 114 countries are also using our AICT, MHRD developed Swayam portal. Today, Swayam 2.0 is already in existence. IIT Madras has taken over from AICT, and that is what has started happening. Now, let me reflect on the COVID times. And suddenly in March 2019, when 2020, when the problem started off and many colleges were required to be closed, and how do we continue the remaining portion of the syllabus which was still not covered? And that is where the challenges started. And the seed of tomorrow's blended learning is the starting point in the COVID times. And that's why these two are to be linked. Although we had even virtual labs in terms of simulation-based labs as an extension of NPTEL project. We had remote controlled labs developed by 7 IITs and 4 other institutions. And NME-ICT's 1 GB connectivity to various universities. And therefore, NPTEL lectures or the Swayam is also in use. AICT UGC had already said 20% of the courses can be had from any of the MOOC courses from out of Swayam, thereby transferring the credits of those courses into your university's transcripts. I think we had already empowered to a great extent without knowing that there will be a pandemic, there will be COVID-19 crisis arising. But having said this, during that phase, those institutions who had already created some kind of an infrastructure for delivering the lecture using their own LMS system or using one of the commercial LMS systems, or those who had faculty trained in this, they were all able to easily migrate to the new norm, which is likely to be the permanent norm later. And therefore, those kind of institutions were having absolutely no problem. There were others who struggled a little bit and could somehow manage in about a month's time. Others had great, about 50% of the institutions could not manage, and therefore, whether conduct of their examination, concluding of their syllabus and semester is all still a challenge. And in the light of all of this, the lessons learned are a few of them. And that is what we need to focus and concentrate in the post-COVID era, when in September, October, actually classes will start. I think that is where academics has to come around and understand the grassroots realities. And unless we understand the realities, probably we can't move forward. I said one type of institutions who had the wherewithal and therefore could easily start the online classes. Even in those institutions, since the students of those institutions came from different parts of the country, many remote areas, villages, Northeast, Jammu Kashmir, were not able to access. The college might have provided an access in terms of beaming the lectures, but are you able to receive? So that was the first challenge which was observed. And when you announce an online examination, you need that to be very robust. See, in case of classes, it's fine. Even if there is a disruption of internet in your place for about half an hour, you will miss some part of the lecture. You can make it up by asking your students, friends, etc., and then read that material later also. But as far as examination is concerned, if you say that it's a 3-hour examination and the questions are driven out and you have to answer them within that time, I think that's a challenge. And if there is a interruption of the internet in that particular location, his exam is all gone. So I think that is where probably immediate next step as far as the government is concerned, and the government is particularly aware of this fact, and a group of ministers have been working on this aspect under Dharmendra Pradhan, the petroleum minister, and the other three cabinet colleagues. How do we really engage our people in the rural areas, far-flung areas, and empower them? And for that, we have this Bharat, whose politics all the nooks and corners. I repeat, we started in 1947 construction of roads to villages, and fairly we have reached almost all the villages. They're connected by at least not pakka tar road or a cement road, concrete road, at least by a kacha road. But then electricity was important. Electricity was also made to reach every nook and corner. The last village was reached about a year back in Nagaland. And now the next level of infrastructure development on the part of the government would be, how do we make internet reach to all the nooks and corners, every village, every home? I think that is the part which the government has to take. On the other side, students who do not have devices, smartphones or laptops or PCs, either we have to give them free of cost, some of them, those who are very, very poor, or you provide loans which are much without interest and all that, and very easily accessible. Thereby, they will buy their own, laptop or PC. There could be other models where NASCOM kind of organization through their entire group of IT companies who turn around every year more than 500,000 computers and laptops can be donated to at least every village, where at least a common center can be established where students can get education. I think these are all various ideas which have been floating around. But more importantly, when the classes begin, this hybrid or blended or whatever model we call was also being tested a little earlier in a different context. We had observed in the last 10 years, not only in India but all over the globe, that the attention span of the students is dwindling and reducing, because thanks to technology, everyone has a smartphone in their hands, and if the lecture is not interesting, then the attention span reduces further. But when the class is interesting, it is observed that the attention span across the globe is average about 8 to 9 minutes, and after 8 minutes they start jiggling here and there, and therefore one has to have a very strong interactive class. And therefore, how do we do it, and how do we cover the syllabus? So the best model was what is called blended model or the flipped classroom, where students were asked to look at the lecture of some eminent person or himself in the form of video audio at home in the hostel room, come back prepared. In the classroom, there is discussion on what is not understood, what are challenging problems on that area, how do you solve them, and that is how you engage the classroom. This was already happening in many colleges and universities, but was not more than about 5%. But now the next model, which is coming up post-COVID, has many other dimensions. One of the dimensions will continue to be this, that students' attention span being less, we have to adjust to that. Second aspect is the social distancing, which has been becoming the norm of the day, that everyone wearing mask and going, and still keeping distance between people. In a classroom where earlier 60 students were sitting, if you maintain social distancing, you can accommodate only 30. Now, what will happen to the remaining 30? And a different type of blend has to arise. I think please switch off mics of all others. Huh? Anyway, so I think this blend is going to be what component of the course will be online, what component of the course will be face to face. or within a course which is running, how one third or half the students are called every day to the class. Remaining half the students will watch the same classroom video by being respective homes internet facility or using the smartphone, mobile with the data. I think this is what is going to become the important norm. And then to get exposure to the real life as well as to have the feeling of being connected. Although whatever way you connect on the virtual mode, you will not have the same feeling and same result. And therefore, how do we rotate the students? So one third students on Monday, one third other students on Tuesday, other one third students on Wednesday, and so on. I think these are the variety of blends. Then the other blend would be whether in arts or commerce or management or computer applications, there can be more online classes. Whereas in the courses of like electronics or mechanical engineering or civil engineering or physics or chemistry for that matter, more interaction is required in the classroom. So they will be conducted in that manner. Then the timetabling. How can we bring half the students in the morning shift and the remaining half in the evening shift? I think these are all innovative models which will emerge post-COVID, depending on situation, depending on the context, depending on the subject which we are handling. And this is the challenge which we have to address squarely. But also, the online lectures, online classes will continue. And therefore, one part which I have is about internet connectivity to nooks and corners and devices being provided. The second important part is how do we train our faculty in conducting the online classes? But this is very significant. Well, our faculty are not trained for that. They will go to the classroom, see the students, and talk. When you are talking in front of the camera, it's not easy. Many times you will fumble. And how do you train yourself and how do you conduct that? I think that is another area which immediately we all need to address in the immediate future. But one more important thing which started doing again without knowing that such a thing will happen is about a portal called NEET, National Educational Alliance for Technology, which many projects developed by many companies, big and large, startups and small and medium scale industries. They were selected, onboarded on AICT's platform, and all of them were artificial intelligence based personalized learning tools. So if you want to learn AI itself, it's the AI based train you what you know already, how do you move it forward in order to become expert in AI? Same way in machine learning, deep learning, robotics, 3D printing. हमारे तो please switch off your microphone, otherwise my microphone also gets switched off by the administrator. So all these new areas, emerging areas, 3D printing, robotics, blockchain, augmented reality, virtual reality, I think these tools train students in them, which are the future job creators as well as where the jobs are going to be available. And therefore, creating training for students through all of these tools is very important, which began, and I'm very happy that this all began about 7 months back before the COVID crisis. And we had one condition that every 4 students buy the product, each student should be given free of cost, and that one is for deprived sections of society. That's what we started off. But during COVID, when we requested them, many companies came forward. They gave this free of cost, and about 1.5 lakh students in the COVID time they trained. They were certified, worth about 80 crore rupees worth of the facility was made available for our students. Beyond that, after looking at this, NEET people are also giving free. Many others who were not onboarded, they came forward. And another 49 companies and about 50 products were also onboarded, which were right from beginning free. And more than 4.5 lakh students benefited. And we have calculated the equivalent revenue of that would have been 250 crore rupees. So it's an excellent model of PP that industry which has created a product which otherwise they would have sold in the market, During the COVID time, they came forward and gave it completely free of cost, and about 4-5 lakh students got trained. And the number of hits in 1 week was 1.2 crore on this platform. I think this is very, very phenomenal. Coming to internship, which is important for job creation and job employability aspect, which industry often talks about. Two initiatives are significant. Our Smart India Hackathon, which was concluded only 2 days back, among students and energy of solving, team building, teamwork, time management, and communication skills. These are the very, very significant value systems which the industry wants. And then, as far as internships are concerned, for the last 3 years, we have made it mandatory. But because number of internships available are limited, we have been requesting all. FICCI also has to come forward and help us in getting more and more internships for our students. We have made it mandatory. And if they don't get internship, then students will say we will not get the degree. And who is responsible? Industry is responsible because they say that students are not well trained. And if you want a well trained manpower, internship should be provided by the industry, whether it is FICCI, NASCOM, CII, everyone I am requesting. We have more than about last year 4 lakh internships available. The students are 10 lakh in number. We have a large gap. I think that needs to be bridged as well. And many industries are saying that in the COVID time and beyond COVID, we may not allow them to come physically to our organization, at least next 6 months, 1 year. And they are also providing online internships. So many problem statements are given, students are mentored, they can solve that, they can understand industry practices by being at home. I think these are all awesome virtues of the online mode, but there are some cases where coming together and staying in the campus is also important, and therefore we must have a blend. And students have to come. They must do sports. They must have academic activities as well as other activities. Earlier, we used to call extracurricular activities like sports, drama, music, dance, etc. Today, it is called co-curricular activities. New education policy even talks about curricular activities. These are also curricular. There will be some credits for these also, because these are the kind of students who go through this. They become excellent managers. They become excellent innovators, and they will be able to use left and right brain appropriately. And that is where the challenge exists. The new education policy is pretty flexible. Lot of entry exit points allowed. Vocational education starting from the school itself, and then the banking of credits. I think these are sweeping reforms which will completely transform the way education was looked at. We were always looking at this for some of the models, but probably this education policy, when with the new regulation is implemented, many other Western countries will look at Indian model of education. Thank you so much. Thank you, Shobhaji, for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. As usual, you have been absolutely mesmerizing. I will take this opportunity to tell the people, the audiences and delegates who are participating that Dr. Sahasrabudhe has been one of those leaders who have really engaged with industry association bodies like FICCI, and he has been there in every meeting while we were deliberating regarding our interventions on whether it was national education policy or it was the Vision 2030 that FICCI came out with, following which we also worked on papers, sir. Remember the graded autonomy and so on and so forth. So I think it is such a heartening day that when you see in your own lifetime what you have tried to achieve for last 15, 20 years, that is getting implemented, and we hope that the NEP will be with the kind of leadership we have with you and our secretary and ministers on the helm of affairs and the prime minister maybe, it will be implemented to the true spirits. FICCI has been doing its own, as you know, own bit, and we started the FICCI Future X initiative some 1.5 years back, and where we were focusing on not only the future talks, talking about demystifying these industry 4.0 technologies, but we were also talking about capacity building of faculty. And sir, you will be happy to learn that our digital learning faculty development program and the leadership development program, you were one of the I think initial programs where we kind of kicked it off, we have now trained almost about 700 faculty on digital platform tools. What are the pedagogical changes that they need to adopt, how to develop online content, assessment, evaluation, and so on and so forth. And those programs are so much on demand that every time we announce the program, we have not less than 150 to 200 faculty, and repeat faculty coming back to us, because as you said, that most of the faculties were not used to, the digital this thing, because the facilities were not there, infrastructure was not there, and so on and so forth. But we are doing our best, and thank you so much, sir. I know you need to leave as you are in a parallel.
Thank you so much. But interestingly, you talked about faculty development program. During COVID times, three other very interesting digital initiatives where we trained under Atal Academy all the emerging areas which I talked, AI, IoT, those workshops, and 18,000 faculty are trained.
Right.
And universal human values workshops, another 10,000 faculty are trained. Then examination reforms and also research methodology. I think another 5,000-6,000. I think this is a phenomenal, blessing in disguise that we're able to reach out to more people through this meeting.
Absolutely, absolutely, sir. And as I can see right here in this platform, we have 650 people. All right, sir. Thank you so much. So we will move on to our next speakers. We have Dr. Sunil Liakot, Director, Rajagiri Business School, Kochi, and Dr. Binay Joseph, Principal, Rajagiri College of Social Sciences, Kochi. And they are going to talk on institutional perspective on hybrid learning models as new normal for the education. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Coach. Thank you for giving this opportunity. I have a small presentation to share. Can I do it from my desktop? Am I allowed to do that?
I'm sure you can. If
yeah, you are doing it. Okay. So can I have it in the slideshow mode? Yeah, that's fine. That looks good. So yeah, see, our initiative in this particular respect of hybrid model is also exactly in lines of what respected chairman Dr. Sahasrabudhe just now mentioned. And the way we teach and learn in our institute, the pedagogy that we adapt and the learning methods that we do, all of them are more or less more suited towards some sort of a hybrid learning model rather than a kind of a pure online model. So in the post-COVID era, even though we have moved to this online model with some kind of a compulsion after the lockdowns and all, in the post-COVID era, definitely we will be actively looking at these kind of delivery models to get the best out of what we can get from the learning exercises, teaching and learning exercise. So this small presentation is a kind of our perspective on how this hybrid learning model is going to add value to the whole system. So let me get into this presentation. I'm not able to change the slides. I think, can I move to the next slide? Or do I get the, do I get the right to share it from here? Okay, fine. Okay, so that is conceptually how we look at a hybrid learning model where we have in-classroom teaching and blended e-learning, and both of them blended together depending on the appropriateness of each of them. As Chairman Sahasrabudhe was telling just now, that we have conceptual based content, memory based content, which can be delivered very effectively through e-learning mode. And later on, there are a lot of exercises that we make our students do in order to realize our learning objectives. So those kind of activities necessarily has to be conducted through a classroom. So for an effective delivery of a teaching learning exercise, what we feel is a hybrid model is way better than probably a pure online model or probably even a pure classroom model. In fact, that is an opportunity lying hidden in this entire COVID crisis that we are facing right now. we have been forced to think in those lines, and our thinking will definitely, I mean, the collective thinking of all of us will definitely lead to the emergence of better methodology, which will be most effective in terms of the delivery of the teaching learning exercise as well as its cost effectiveness. So what do we do as an institute? Can you go to the next slide? Yeah. So especially for a business school like us, Rajagiri Business School, our pedagogical requirement is slightly unique in the sense that we are an institute which follow a learning objective based pedagogy. It's not each course is supposed to deliver, or each course is supposed to equip the students with a particular kind of a skill. So that is the learning objective that we try to realize by delivering that course. Can I go to the next point, please? Because it has got, yeah. So these learning outcomes will lead to kind of observable and measurable learning outcomes in the students. So we will be observing and measuring these learning outcomes at the student level in each and every course throughout the period of instruction, which for a typical program of management is 2 years for us. Now we consistently review this achievement of LOs, learning objectives, based on the feedback measurement from the students. And then we use this, can you go to the next point? We use this feedback received from the students in terms of achievement of learning objectives to plan our action for improving the learning objectives, improving the achievement of learning objectives, or maybe to move to a higher level of learning objective. So this is a cyclical process which keeps on continuing. So that's the specific pedagogical requirement we have today as a management institute. Can I move to the next slide, please? Yeah. So when we have to implement these learning objectives, then it calls for a diverse set of activities suitable for implementing each of these learning objectives. Now, those diverse set of activities are given as under. Some of the activities I have mentioned below. Case discussion, which is generally used in all management school, in simulations, role plays, small group assignments. All these things form part of our pedagogy. All these things help us achieve our learning objectives. So none of the above, the peculiarity of these pedagogical methods are, none of them are, can be as effective online as compared to a physical class. So definitely we have to look for some kind of a hybrid methodology where we can have a blend of probably best of both worlds. Can I go to the next slide, please? Yeah, if we look at a fully online model, so this is our requirement. So in contrast to this, if we look at a fully online model, these fully online models are most suitable for understanding or memorizing based learning outcomes. So where we are testing only the memory of the students or understanding of the concept, fully online model can be of great help. It can also be effective, but rather less effective for a slightly higher order learning objective, which involves comprehension, application, analysis, slightly higher order objectives. Can we go to the next point? But when it comes to this fully online model, it has severe constraints for implementing still higher order learning objectives, which calls for synthesis, evaluation, creation, and things like that. Basically, because essentially, when we are talking about a fully online model, the classroom is confined to a 12-inch square in front of you, and there is no live human being standing in front of you. It's just an electronic gadget. So, therefore, it cannot generate the energy of a physical interactive classroom. The energy that is generated in the classroom is also equally important to stimulate thinking on the part of the students. So, this particular medium, a fully online medium I'm talking about, is a more of a teacher and message centric medium rather than a student centric medium. When we are talking about a live classroom where the students and the teachers, between the students and teachers, as well as the students amongst themselves, if they happen to be interacting very, very actively, So that energy can result in a whole lot of idea generation, a whole lot of brain stimulation. So those things cannot be fully achieved if we are working with only an online model. Next point, please. So that's about our learning requirements, which is basically about synthesis, evaluation, creation kind of focus, which has those kind of focus. But when it goes to still higher level learning objectives, which involves metacognitive dimensions of learning, each student thinking about how he learns by himself. So those kind of learning objectives, this fully online model could be kind of irrelevant. But right now, we are not talking about that. We are talking only about probably about fifth level in the Bloom's taxonomy. We are not going beyond that. So that's the constraint that we face as far as a fully online model is concerned. So can we go to the next slide, please? So therefore, given our pedagogical requirement and given the constraints that we face on a fully online model of course delivery, the model that is more appropriate for us is either in class or either it has to be a fully in class one, but if at all that is not possible, it has to be a hybrid one. Now, the choice of that model among in class or hybrid has to be based on the specific LOs to be addressed. Our LOs are the ones which I spoke just a while before in context. So can we go to the next point, please? So it's clear that fully online models are not fully effective for student-centric LOs, which we are concerned with as a business school. Next. So hybrid models can combine the economy. So the advantage there is hybrid models can combine the economy of online models with the effectiveness of in-class models. So maybe in the post-COVID era, this can come up as a very effective model of course delivery, especially for business schools like us. Now, how do we decide what is the best suited model for me? What is the best suited model for my course? Yes, there can be some kind of an institutional level policy for this, but to get the best effectiveness out of it, it is best left to the teachers. Teachers should be given freedom to decide on its judicious mix of whether to what extent I should go for online model and to what extent I should go for a classroom model, so that I have a happy blend of both. So if that is done, then probably in the post-COVID era, we can think of getting a very robust system of course delivery based on a hybrid model, maybe capable of addressing to almost all learning objectives we are looking at. So that's what I have to share with you today evening. I can take up questions at the end of it. So thank you very much for the patient listening. I thank Chairman Dr. Saksarabuddhe and the other organizations, panelists, and the participants of this seminar. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for that very interesting presentation. It's definitely food for thought. And I think each institution will have to, kind of come up with their own strategy, depending on the cohort of students they have and the kind of capabilities and infrastructure they have at disposal. Is Dr. Binay Joseph going to be talking now? Because I see his name.
Yeah.
You're on mute.
Yeah, he'll be sharing a few thoughts on this.
Okay,
Shobha,
yes.
I'll be speaking for a few minutes.
Yeah, please come.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dear fellow panelists, members from FICCI, my colleague Dr. Sunil Puliakot, the Director, Rajagiri Business School, Father Francis Malawan, CMI, our Assistant Director, and dear alumni, students, and all well-wishers. Now, I would like to straight away get on to the point, as already the chairman of AICTE, Dr. Anil Sahasrabuddhe, and Dr. Sunil Puliakot has given enough amount of details. I'll be focusing on what are the practices that we have adopted in our school with regard to the post-COVID educational initiatives. Now, actually, we were having many digital content developed as part of Rajagiri Wow, Rajagiri Web of Wisdom, and many digital contents were uploaded in our website. We were also doing simulations to a lot. We had tie-up with Harvard Business School Press, and also we are a center of excellence in simulations for SISM. So we were also using case studies a lot of Harvard, IIMs, and so on. So the challenge was to make it online. So actually, it was a forced migration to digital learning to some extent, and all the three facets of academics or maybe learning, that is content creation, dissemination, and evaluation assessment, were impacted by COVID, and hence we had to gear up the rest of the gaps that we had to become fully digital and to make it a hybrid mode. So if you look at it, the role of the teacher has transitioned from a purely teacher, he has moved to a teacher mentor, and the role of a student has become a role of more of a learner having responsibility to learn all by himself, going beyond the classroom. So the onus is responsible of the student with just mentorship from the teachers. So these are, quite interesting changes or paradigm changes in the roles that we have. So online learning, we have been, we have received encouraging feedbacks from our students. Now, if you ask me, the portion that we had to complete last academic year were conducted and examinations were conducted online. Quite interestingly, the challenges that we faced in evaluation assessment is to ensure that our students follow ethical practices, especially in academic honesty. So we had installed safe exam browsers and other softwares to ensure that assessments are conducted well. In the evaluations, we were having the practice of plagiarism check. So we are following plagiarism X and other plagiarism detection software. So these were all helping us to a lot when evaluation and assessments were happening remotely. If you ask me, we were using learning management system, mostly Moodle. So Moodle was used not only for taking attendance, uploading PowerPoint presentations, uploading case studies, uploading learning materials, but also submission of assignments, submission of continuous evaluations. So we had used Moodle extensively as a learning management system, and it was really encouraging. We have also used Moodle for evaluation and assessment. In the evaluation, we have used Moodle for MCQ as well as descriptive, and we have received encouraging feedback from the students. We had also added a component of negative marking for MCQ. So quite surprisingly, we got to know that no, students never got very high marks, though we expected that MCQ was very easy. So quite interesting feedbacks from the students as well as from teachers. So we have used extensively social media also for learning management systems. Like some of our professors have given small video lessons just before the start of the class, maybe in an asynchronous mode, and probably the students have been motivated or inspired to go through that video, then deliberated on that video in the sessions, online sessions, and almost all faculty has given very good feedback about it. Now, I would say, this COVID pandemic has helped us a lot in leveraging the opportunity to become more hybrid. And I think learners have gone up. We have the agility to rise up to the expectations of the students or learners. And similarly, it was a challenge of faculty also to rise up. And they have transitioned from the role of mere a teacher to a teacher mentor. And we have also asked our students to take more of MOOC courses. We have taken, we have tied up with edX, we have tied up with maybe Coursera. We have also encouraged our students to take NPTEL courses. We are a local chapter here. We have also encouraged students to take AICT's Swine platform. we could see that the students are using their time fruitfully during. I feel that overall, the great opportunity was leveraged by our students and our teachers. The thrust has always been on learner engagement, and our faculty and our students were giving very encouraging feedback on learner encouragements. Now the challenge is how to replicate the experience that they had on co-curricular and extracurricular activities through online. Now we have made our Rajagiri Management Fest in Flore online. We are also doing our Rajagiri National Business Quiz 2020 online. So we are also trying to replicate those experiences a student could have when he was on the campus. So with the support of the students, we are also co-creating not only the knowledge content but also about the co-curricular extracurricular activities. And to conclude, I wish to say that the engagement of the learners is the key in the post-COVID time, and there are enough and more opportunities and possibilities in education sector, and all stakeholders, especially faculty, student, management, should rise up to these times and give the best engagement possible for the learners so that the learning is more effective. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think it was a very comprehensive presentation. Both of you, Binoy and Sunil, showcasing how you are using technology both in your business school as well as the social sciences school. So definitely a great learning. I think because we have a paucity of time, I will immediately quickly move on to the next speaker from the industry, who will be sharing the industry perspective on the hybrid learning models. And I first invite Mr. Ayush Gupta, Chief General Manager, HRD at GAIL India Limited.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, good evening. I would be sharing my thoughts on the industry perspective on the new hybrid model. The discussion already has been at length had been done about the possibilities in this hybrid model, how the online learning can be blended with some offline experiences, how to engage with the students, that they get the practical exposure also. But prior to discussing the issues involved or the industry apprehensions or the perspectives on this issue, it is important to note that earlier also we have been already been talking about the gap between industry and academia and how that gap can be bridged. Industry always have been talking about the employability question of students passing out from the various institutions. And it has been much talked about that the readiness of being available for the job thing will be a gap wherein it can needs to be blended with some training inputs which are required to be given as and when some new person joins the industry. So on that part, this then the hybrid model becomes all the more important when the learning is being done online. So how the practical part of that education, whether it is through labs or whether it's through industry visits or internships, which have been highlighted by so they also gets covered, is some of the issues which needs to be addressed holistically. Another important part when we talk of or when we go for a recruitment or hiring uh, candidate from any campus or through an online examination or through a written test process, there are basically four different elements that an industry looks into a prospective student or the prospective employee joining the industry. One is definitely the knowledge, subject knowledge domain. Say if is an electrical engineer, the domain knowledge about the subject. Second, the skills which they acquire through application, through different lab exercises, practical exercises that are being done in the classroom or in the lab or through the industry visit. Third, most important part is the ability to apply that knowledge and skills acquired to the practical field. When they come to industry, how that knowledge gets applied, that is something which becomes really important. wherein it's just not the domain knowledge, but also the conceptual ability to link that knowledge to the practical application when they come to industry or the workplace. And again, one of the most important part, which is the last but not the least, which has been pointed out by both all the speakers till now, it's the whether we call it as a curricular activities, co-curricular activity, or extracurricular activities, it is all linked to the team play or the behavioral skills or the aptitude or attitude of the people when they are coming to the industry, how well they can gel with the team, how well they are dedicated, how they take up the responsibilities when they are at the workplace is another important part. So these are the primarily four different assessments for which the industry assesses the prospective elements. There can be different tools, there can be examinations, there are interviews, there are psychometric tools, there are group discussions, but all these exercises in one way or the other try to assess these broadly these four parameters before a hiring decision is taken by the industry to hire a student. So if we look at this new hybrid model, possibly we can look at these four domains, that how these four domains are going to get affected, whether it's the in-person classroom training or we are going for a completely online module, or there is a hybrid module where it's a blended online versus in-class training, whether it's a part-time, first half, second half, one-third student, third student. But then one thing is pretty clear in this tech era, knowledge is plentifully available, whether it's through edX platform, Coursera, or online MOOC platforms, or through classroom teaching. But definitely, I'll agree with Dr. Sunil that something which in-person training or teaching is there, the online courses cannot replicate that kind of an atmosphere that is generated within the classroom. There is a lot of energy, that is a lot of atmosphere that gets created, and it's not just from the faculty that the students are learning, they are learning from each other also. They are learning from that campus atmosphere, the classroom atmosphere also itself is a very big learning platform or the learning opportunity available to the students. So that is something definitely the students are going to miss for times to come, along with the challenges of having the online learning, whether they are really participating in those programs or they are just muting and discussing it. The option, like Dr. Sahasrudre was saying, that the attention span reduced, then having the tech opportunity of muting or unmuting or switching off your video, that gives you all the more important. Not just bunking the classes, but also bunking the online classes becomes much more easier. So that is something, those are the challenges which we have to implement, see how do we mitigate those challenges. But nevertheless, having said this, as we say that this is going to be a new normal, we need to adapt to these situations which are coming our way. We have been forced to think beyond our apprehensions that, okay, at industry level also, when the lockdown started, we had so many of apprehensions that how we'll be able to operate in the terms of work from home, whether how we'll be operating with 30% of attendance or 50% of the attendance. But as the time has passed by, all of us have been forced to adapt, and now moving ahead, we have been started working with 30%, 50% attendance, and some of the industry are completely working from home. There are many companies who have announced that for next 1 year they will continue to work from home. So there is a paradigm shift within the industry itself, not just the educational institutions, but also within the industry. So if for educational institutions that hybrid or the online learning is the new normal, for industry work from home is a new normal which we are trying to learn and adapt. So both ways the shift is taking place, but definitely there will be certain sectors within the industry also where the online work from home will not work. Like if it's a manufacturing industry or a plant-based industry, there needs to have 100% attendance where people have to go, they have to operate machines, they have to work in field, they will have to carry out the maintenance activities, they will have to troubleshoot the systems, they will have to make sure that the 100% production is being done. So similarly, when we talk of the education, there will be certain core areas which cannot be done away. Possibly the online modules will not be able to replace those things. So like if a somebody is to develop as a fire engineer. So practical day-to-day, that modules which they go through, the rigorous physical training they have to go through, the online firefighting techniques which they have to learn. They can learn the theory part, definitely they can possibly learn through an online module, but the practical part, 70% or 80% of their education is through practical learning. So those will have to continue, and for that, definitely solutions will have to be built in, whether we do a morning shift, evening shift, one third, two third. But those are rigorous trainings where even I feel the 4 year education becomes short. Maybe that time itself is not enough to get that kind of a training which industry expects. So if we are going from a in a hybrid module, definitely there is an apprehension or question mark in our minds also, that how that gap is going to be filled, whether all these modules will be able to bridge that gap, provide effective solutions, so that when they come to job, when they come to industry for working, they are as well as they were before, if not better, at least at par with what they were able, the exposure they were getting, whether they continue to get or not, or the knowledge or not. It's going to be, especially for these kind of areas where practical knowledge is more important, and which it becomes critical within the industry when the application part is there. So there, I would request the academia members also sitting, that that's the area something where the industry and academia will have to work very closely. Like Dr. Sahaspudre was emphasizing, more on internships, more practical exposures. Possibly industry is better equipped to provide those kind of exposure. They will have to offer more internships. Maybe earlier the internships used to be a 2 month period of May or June. Possibly now with a blended learning, you will have to look for an year-long internship where some people can come in January, some in February. They can be spread over the months, so that or over a period of 4 years or 3 years of their education, the internship may not be restricted to you only in third year. It can start from first year also. And small modules where they can come in batches, the industry can also support. That kind of a model maybe will have to be evolved to bridge that practical exposure gap. Another opportunity which I foresee here in terms of how industry can support the educational institutions is also in terms of offering live projects. Many of the industries are doing it. Many of the institutions are encouraging live projects, but for scenario, these kind of live projects need to increase, where the faculty, the students, and the industry people will have to work closely to bridge this gap. Apart from that, another good opportunity which I see is in terms of online, we can have more industry mentors to the students. There can be industry mentors associated, at least say from second year onwards. The industry mentors can be picked up. The academia can reach out to industry people, professionals who are ready to mentor the students. Their matching can be done from second year or third year onwards. The uh, industry mentors can be assigned to the students. Maybe one mentor can guide, or we can have two or three mentees depending on their will or time which they can devote, so that from day one or from a very early stage, the students are getting associated with industry people. They can discuss their problems, they can discuss the practical aspects, the theory they are learning, so those doubts can be cleared. The industry people can share their expectations from the student. And area which I feel where industry can contribute and work with the academia is in terms of the offering industry-led electives. Maybe some of the electives can be offered to the students, maybe a semester-long elective or a shorter elective, depending on the model being followed by the academic institutions. Especially in the online module, it becomes really feasible. Earlier, industry people to the institution and being there on campus for a 6 months would not have been possible. But with this online or the hybrid learning, I feel this becomes a distinct possibility where the industry-led electives can be provided. Say, if somebody is talking of, I'm working from the gas industry, natural gas pipeline or city gas distribution, can be one of the electives of which can be offered to mechanical engineering students or civil engineering students or any student who is aspiring to work for oil and gas industry. So that industry specific modules or electives can be offered by the professionals, which can be opted, can be purely voluntary by the students to opt for, and based on the interest if the available number of students opt for that elective can be offered in a particular semester. So where the industry will also gain confidence about the students, what kind of a learning they are having. They'll be able to better evaluate the students rather than evaluating just on the basis of 15 minutes of interview or a examination. So they will also have a closer interaction with the students to judge their capabilities. The campus recruitments possibly will see a up if we can have this kind of a industry-led initiative which can be implemented. When we are talking of this thing or the role of educational institutions in imparting this knowledge, I see that role as a role of a bridge between the students' life of as a student and their life as a professional working in the industry. So this bridge is a all important bridge. The stronger this bridge is, the lesser will be the gap between the expectations of the industry from the students who are joining them. So there, what is important for us as an industry or as the academia is how closely we can work to design. Possibly the structure in the current scenario will have to be relooked into. Some of the institutions or the within the new educational policy also things are coming up. So we can work together to look into these kind of interventions that can be done. Some of the industries may go slow on hiring because of the current pandemic situation or the impact on the business that may happen, but the pandemic has also opened up opportunity in whole lot of new sectors where the hiring is on the rise. So any problem brings up on new challenges, but also it opens up the new opportunities. So it has opened up a new opportunity for the industry, for the education center as a sector as a whole, and I am sure that many new things, new opportunities are going to be there. I'm really optimistic in the current scenario that we are going to pass through this phase and we'll emerge as winners after the phase has ended. We'll be stronger, better as industry professionals or as institutionals. And soon there will be a time when the classes will move from forward from Zoom or Microsoft Teams to classes or courses based on virtual reality, where the students will be able to experience what is happening in the industry through possibly the use of virtual reality. So thank you very much. That is something what I thought I'll share with you. Happy to listen to the views from other panelists. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta. I think it was a very, very comprehensive presentation as to what the industry engagement would be like in the post-pandemic era. And I think you covered each and every aspect of it in very minutely. I just wanted to add was that while this situation may pan out for another 6 months or 1 year, but it's not a permanent situation. So the moment there is going to be a discovery of vaccine or a drug which will be able to kind of deal with the COVID-19, I think things will kind of normalize, but it will be a new normal definitely, and it will definitely be a hybrid. And I wanted to add, which you kind of took it away from me in the last bit, that even the experiential learning can be given through virtual reality and augmented reality programs. And the national education policy, by now trying to create a enabling environment for credit banks, I think all that you spoke about, elective industry programs and so on and so forth, will become a possibility. It will also be a possibility for students to complete a term, go into the industry. I mean, exactly just the way it's been happening in the developed world, and earn some credits, come back, and kind of accumulate those credits. Currently, they're talking about accumulation of credits through universities, from different universities, but I'm sure not very long we will be also accumulating credits by our industry experience, and then combining it with the educational or academic program, and then getting a degree or a diploma, depending on the credits that we have earned. So very exciting times ahead. A lot of innovation is needed, but we must be cognizant of one thing: the teaching community or the leaders who are there currently are the pre-COVID era, but the students or the youth that is coming in is is going to be the post-COVID era, and they are completely a different species. They are much more comfortable with technology than any one of us is, and so therefore, I think they will find their own way, and the gap which will come in through human intervention. Of course, human intervention will definitely be always be a need, but I'm sure it will, kind of pan out as we go forward. So with this, I think I will invite in the another industry, speaker who has been a great friend of FICCI. I have known Ajay Bora from, I think, 2005 onwards. I have seen him grow. He is the co-founder of HDFC Credila Financial Services, and he is going to be talking about precisely the perspective that Dr. Sahasrabudhe touched upon. How do students, each one of the students, have the ability to have a device, have the right bandwidth? How does the institutions work and provide those financial support? How does the government come in and provide the financial support? What is the role of these financial institutions that have been providing loans, scholarships, etc.? So over to you, Ajay.
Now, thank you very much, Mrs. Mishra. It has been a real pleasure working with FICCI as always. Well, financial aspects of hybrid learning can be seen from three different perspectives. First, if we see the student perspective, now, as over the years, as we have seen, the global cost of higher education globally, meaning this is not India specific phenomena, but globally the cost of higher education has been growing faster than the rate of inflation. Now, given that background, given the context, and additional element to that, which is that currently we are living in the uncertain times. Therefore, the earnings are stressed. So the focus of students and parents is back on cost of education. Would I be able to get the return on my investments, which I pay as the fees? What would be the payback period? What kind of earnings I can do once I complete the course? However, hybrid model of learning offers the flexibility and choices. Now, if we see at the other perspective, educational institutes might have a very different perspective. The hybrid model enables the institutes also to optimize their cost, given the scenario that cost optimization might be something that the stakeholders might be looking at. The first and the foremost, the element of the most critical element of this is the hybrid model breaks all geographical boundaries. That means the content can be delivered. Once it can be delivered online, the faculty or the course can also be delivered by anybody around the world. So that opens the doors of opportunities for the educational institute on one hand. On the other hand, there would be, if they opt for the hybrid model, as the other fellow speakers have also said, that would mean lesser number of students on campus. That would mean the financial model or the economic model of the educational institutes, where some fee income comes in due to the hostel and the mess and the canteen related fees, or any other fee income that comes in from the infrastructure, can also be stressed. The second thing is also the resource utilization. If there has to be rotation of students, then what about the physical infrastructure? So though the elements of cost can also change in the hybrid model of learning. Now, one way to look at it could be the students can learn from anywhere based on the recently announced education policy. There could be a separate fee, additional fee for testing and certification. The students can learn from anywhere. However, on the other side, the course fee can be separated out from there. Now, these are the two stakeholders, but eventually it will boil down to how do we, finance this hybrid model? Who can come in and what could be the nuances from the standpoint of the lender of education loans or the banks? Now, the recently announced education policy as well as this hybrid model makes learning and the degrees as a modular platform, as a modular format, where students can take courses as they wish in the given time, and they can take it from any sources or any faculty. Now, that would mean the sachetization of financial products. That would mean that the ticket size of the education loans will have to be brought down. So those would trigger the nano kind of loans, nano loans for nano degrees or certifications and the programs. Now, but that poses its own challenges from a lender standpoint. If the ticket size of the loan is smaller, let's say the course fee for the whole degree, if it's, let's say, 5 lakhs, vis-a-vis if it's a modular program, then for a given course, if the fee charged per course, then the ticket sizes of education loans will have to be smaller. Now, that means higher administrative cost for the lender. Now, who is doing it currently? If we look at the best practice available there, microfinance institutions have been doing it quite successfully. But what are the ingredients, the most critical ingredients for the microfinance institutions to make a successful model? The first is group lending. They take a group of students, the citizens, and then they do group lending. They also have a scenario where peers help one another. Now, in the given context, coming back to the educational loans and the institutes, if we have educational institute as the facilitator, then even for those nano loans or small ticket education loans, the ecosystem could be created, or the enablers could be put in place. Or alternatively, again, on the backdrop of the recently announced education policy, if there could be credit banks, as Mrs. Mishra has also said, if that is the scenario, then the education loan could be approved for the given course, and it would be the preference and the choice of the student which various institutes within that prescribed framework they can take, and the fees could be payable in small tranches to those respective institutions who offer the fees. Now, the credit assessment, the most important part, as the fellow speaker, Mr. Ayush Gupta, has also highlighted, at the end of the day, from a lender standpoint, what is the employability of that student? How would it affect the learning outcomes by this hybrid learning model? Now, considering those factors, there are many questions which have been posed by fellow panelists as well, and that would continue to come to the fore from the lender standpoint. Would the student be able to acquire the skills and the competencies which would be required for them to perform in the real life scenario? Now, that could also trigger some situation, course on EMI, or there could be pre-approved credit loans. Let's say, as the education policy allows various entry points and exit points, there could be the pre-approved amount, and the student or the learner can choose the pace of learning as they wish. Now, in conclusion, I think hybrid learning model is a significant disruption, but it is not something new. It has been there for a while. However, the popularity and the familiarity and the acceptability of this model has enhanced due to the lockdown that we have seen. And given the disruptive and the uncertain environment that we operate in the today's world, unlearning and relearning will be the new norms. Now, if that is to be the new norm, that would also mean the educational institutes can have students, not just within the age group of regular students, but everybody would be a student for life, or they will be dictated to be the students for lives. So the more adoption the hybrid learning model finds in various institutes, it can pose various growth opportunities. So there could be two ways to look at it. To conclude, if I can say, the educational institute can see that as a biggest threat or a biggest disruption, where their cost elements are under stress. Students are saying reduce the fees because we are not coming to the campus, and various other factors. So it could be a challenge, or else it could be seen as an opportunity where geographical boundaries can be broken. Even the pool of global students can be addressed to, if the course content is good, if the faculty is good, and then if we can reconfigure, if the educational institutes can reconfigure their model and create the delivery system where India can stand out as the hub of education of higher learning, which India has been historically. Takshashila and Nalanda were the institutes where the global students came in. Model of learning, I believe, offers another such disruptive and transformational opportunities for all of us to create a model which will be the global best practice. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajay. I think these were very pertinent questions. Pertinent points that you have, kind of taken up. Is there any queries that within the panelist would you like to ask Ajay, particularly from the Rajagiri Business School? Are there any queries from this panelist?
Yeah, Ajay, I have a query. Hello.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead. Yes.
Shobha, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Please go ahead. I can hear you. Yes, I can. Yeah.
My question is regarding the funding for certifications. Hello.
Yeah.
So
We
regarding
can hear you. Please go
certifications
ahead.
which can enhance the employability of students. So what is
Yes.
the yardstick for the banks to or the financial services company to support the students?
Yeah. So traditionally, as it has always been, that what is the transformational effect of that course? If so, there could be two kinds of students. One is the regular students, and the other could be working professionals. Now, if it is the program or the professional certification where reskilling or upgradation of knowledge is going to enhance their competencies and skills, then those could be funded very easily. And currently, also a lot of institutions and the banks have been funding it. However, if there are nano programs or courses or online programs, then the credit assessment becomes a holistic approach. Then the lenders, from the lender standpoint, overall factors need to be considered as to what is currently the student, what is the student doing currently, and what would be the value addition in terms of his or her employability or the professional career growth plans he or she might have. So there is no regular template which can work, but it could be very personalized and customized to the given scenario.
So Ajay, if I may ask you, do you work through the institution or individual students reach out to you? How does it work? I mean, it works better when you have an institutional arrangement?
So, well, various factors. Typically, when students go for any institute, after the student graduates, the educational institute does not have much control over what the students do. So there have been some institutes which offer the guarantees to the institute, saying that we know the quality of our students or our program, and we can come in as and create the guarantee pool. There are some lenders who take that guarantee pool. However, the ideal model is that educational institute can act as the facilitator, and the quality of content or the quality of the course itself should suffice the lender or the bank to say that it is worth funding that. For example, as the fellow panelist Ayush Gupta sir has said, if it's let's say firefighting or fire engineer kind of course, or very niche specialized courses, cyber security, artificial intelligence, if there are niche programs where the functional skills of the students get enhanced, those typically lead the way in terms of credit approvals.
Great. Thank you, Ajay. I think it was very, very useful.
Shobha, can I ask one more question?
Thanks for inviting.
Please go ahead. This is the last question, as we are already out with time.
Yeah, I understand. It's a related question. Ajay, we have something called Rajagiri Center for Professional Studies, where we offer programs for working professionals as well as those who have completed graduation, like CPA, CIMA, CMA, US, ACC, and so on. So, as you mentioned, even though they are students who are passed out from the institution but are enrolling our Center for Professional Studies as part of continuing education, there is a possibility of funding from the banks for our financial services company for such certifications or professional qualifications.
Yeah, no, we can see there are various banks which work very closely with the educational institutes. What we can do is offline we can take it up, and we'll need to understand, meaning more information. Then we can have a discussion in the follow-up call, or offline we can take it up. Since it's very particular to the given scenario.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Ajay. It was a pleasure listening to you, and I'm sure we'll be connected. Yeah. So
thank
we have come to the end of the session, but before that, we need to have a summing up and vote of thanks. And may I invite Father Francis Sebastian, CMI Assistant Director, RCSS and RBS coaching. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Honorable Dr. Anil Sahasra Budhe, Chairman AICTE, respected Ms. Shobha Mishra Ghosh, Assistant Secretary General, FICCI, Dr. Sunil Puliako, Director, Rajagiri Business School, Kochi, Dr. Binoy Joseph, Principal, Rajagiri College of Social Sciences, Mr. Ayush Gupta, Chief General Manager, HRD at Gale, Mr. Amit Goyal, Country Head, India and Southeast Asia, EDEX, Mr. Ajay Bohra, Co-founder, HDFC Credila Financial Services, our most valued invited guest, participants like Vice Chancellors, Principals, academicians, students, and ladies and gentlemen. It is my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks and summing up of this wonderful webinar on this occasion. I, Father Francis Madavalan, on behalf of FICCI, Rajagiri Business School, Kochi, other Rajagiri group of institutions, the participants, and the organizing team, extend a very heart vote of thanks to all honorable speakers for gracing your important work and sharing with us your findings and opinions today. A big thank you to Dr. Anil Sahasra Budhe, a visionary academician and a great leader, for his insightful keynote address. So during chairman's address, actually he was taking us to the evolution, the historical moments of maybe the high-tech revolution in India. He was taking us back to maybe NTPL, MOOCs courses, virtual labs. Then also he was telling us various platforms and what are the challenges we are facing, especially the remote area and people like. Then he was also providing a roadmap how to handle both the situation, the challenges and the opportunities seamlessly. Maybe he was addressing and speaking about the government initiatives, the AICT, UGC initiatives, and everything he was explaining us. So in the name of everyone listening this webinar, all the participants, the organizers, I take this opportunity to thank our great AICT chairman, Anil Sahasra Budhe, our heartfelt gratitude and appreciation. Thank you so much, sir. I must mention our deep sense of appreciation for Ms. Shobha Mishra Ghosh, the moderator of this webinar, Assistant Secretary General of FICCI, for her introductory note, the wonderful handling of maybe the different sessions and giving various inputs, asking questions and making it more vibrant and interesting. And the meticulously she explained the importance of the topic, then about the rethinking about the pedagogical practices in India due to the COVID. So, ma'am, we are really indebted to you, and I take this opportunity to thank you so much. Further, we are grateful to Dr. Sunil Puliako, the director of Rajagiri Business School, Kochi, for demonstrating the importance of blending in the emerging pedagogies. He was actually explaining the shortcomings of maybe the online method alone or offline method alone, and he was actually explaining the relevance of maybe the blending pedagogy. And thank you, sir, for your beautiful words. I may like to express our sincere thanks to Dr. Binoy Joseph for giving an excellent coverage to the post-COVID management of education practices. He was taking the examples of the Rajagiri College of Social Sciences, how they are migrating to the online mode, even conducting maybe the management first to the online quizzes and various assessment and everything, sharing the LMS practices in the college. Thank you, Binoy sir, for your input and your questions. I also wish to express my gratitude to Mr. Ayush Gupta, Chief General Manager, HRD at Gale Limited, for providing convincing narratives on hybrid learning from the industry perspective. He was actually mentioning about 4 important domains, especially how the industry is assessing a student, a probable candidate. So the knowledge domain, the skills, the ability to apply knowledge, the conceptual ability and attitude or behavior, and how maybe the online pedagogy, how it is impacting the formation and measurement of this kind of 4 important domains. And he was actually recommending the ways and means, something like the industry-led electives, and he was actually giving an optimistic note on maybe the possibilities of the students in the industry also. Sir, really, your words are very important, and thank you so much for your input session also. Then I am very much grateful to Mr. Amit Koyal. He was there in the meeting. I think
He had to leave.
he will leave. Okay. Anyway, thank you so much, sir. And we are also like to acknowledge our gratitude Ajay Bohora, the co-founder of HDFC Credila Financial Services, for taking us to a different perspective, the financial impact on the hybrid learning, especially the cost optimization of maybe the disruption that is happening in the minds of the students regarding, suppose, the fees for the cost of the education, the hostel, something like that, and various packages for students, and how we can maybe go for the modular model, okay, degree giving, providing the degree certificate or something, the credit assessment systems, and various financial packages available from various financial institutions, something like that. It was a wonderful, insightful moment for us. And thank you, sir, for your words of wisdom. So we are all inspired by your great words, all our speakers of the day. I also thank all the participants from various walks of life, such as government organizations, industry, education field. We hope that all of you have benefited something after this webinar. Thank you for your wonderful and patient listening and participation. I would like to take this opportunity to place on record our heartfelt thanks to FICCI for the perfect organization, logistics support, and guidance extended to organize this wonderful webinar. I also extend our heartfelt gratitude to Rajagiri Business School, Kochi, their CMI management, teachers, staff, alumni, students, and parents for their enormous cooperation in the organization of this wonderful event. Well, our chairman, ladies and gentlemen, and even like this cannot happen overnight. The wheels start rolling weeks ago. It requires planning and a bird's eye for details. We have been fortunate enough to be backed by a team of very motivated and dedicated colleagues from FICCI and Rajagiri, like Priyanka from FICCI, like Akhil Johnson from Rajagiri, and other team members and our colleagues who know their job and are result-oriented. Thank you so much for your contribution to conduct this webinar so successfully. I cannot thank everyone enough for their involvement and their willingness to take on the completion of tasks beyond their comfort zone. The technical team, invitation team, press and media, and all other people who really contributed well to conduct this particular webinar. Thank you so much. Chairman, our distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I want to state that we are all most grateful to all speakers and all participants of this webinar. We thank you for being with us this evening. It has been a great pleasure for us, FICCI and Rajagiri Business School, to come forward and leading the society through novel ideas and vision. Rajagiri is happy to associate with FICCI to come up with relevant initiatives like this in the future. So, thanking you for giving us an opportunity to cooperate with. So once again, thank you very much, everyone. I remain, thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much for that closing remarks. Thank you to you as well. Have a great evening. With this, we come to the end of the seminar.